Late on a Friday night, the kind of night when most of the city was either asleep or too drunk to care, a small roadside bar buzzed with noise. Neon lights flickered against the windows, rock music hummed through old speakers, and a group of leather-clad bikers occupied the center of the room, laughing loudly at their own jokes. The air smelled of beer, fried food, and trouble. In the middle of this rowdy energy, the heavy wooden door opened quietly. Steven Seagal walked in, tall, calm, and almost unnaturally composed. He wasn't dressed to impress, just in a black jacket and simple jeans. But still, he carried an aura that made a few heads turn without even trying. Beside him was his wife, moving gracefully, her expression calm and reserved. She wasn't loud, flashy, or trying to get anyone's attention. She simply walked with dignity. The couple made their way to a corner booth, hoping for a quiet drink away from the noisy crowd. Seagal nodded politely at the bartender, who immediately recognized him but didn't say anything. The bar wasn't the kind of place where people approached celebrities. It was the kind of place where people minded their business, unless they were drunk enough not to. Unfortunately, one of the bikers was exactly that drunk. The biker, a tall, loud, overly confident guy with more tattoos than common sense, noticed Seagal's wife the moment she sat down. His smirk widened. He elbowed his friends, muttering something under his breath that made them burst into laughter. The music kept playing, but even through the noise, the biker's mocking chuckle cut through the atmosphere like a blade. He watched her with a kind of disrespectful stare that made the bartender frown. Most people would have looked away, minded their own business, but not this guy. He was the type who believed he owned every room he stepped into. And seeing a quiet, elegant woman enter this rugged bar with a calm, soft-spoken husband? To him, it looked like an opportunity to show off. What he didn't know, couldn't possibly know, was that he had just set himself on a collision course with the worst decision of his night. Because Steven Seagal didn't react immediately. He didn't glare. He didn't threaten. He simply watched, quietly. And that silence was more dangerous than anything the biker could imagine. The biker leaned back in his chair, stretching his arms wide as if he owned the whole bar. His boots thudded loudly against the wooden floor as he stood up, swaying slightly from the alcohol. He wasn't drunk enough to fall, but drunk enough to believe he was unstoppable. His friends cheered him on, already sensing that he was planning something stupid. The biker wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and glanced again toward Seagal's wife, this time with an exaggerated smirk. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know who Steven was. All he saw was a quiet couple who didn't fit the environment, and that made him feel powerful. People like him thrived on moments where they could embarrass strangers for no reason other than insecurity disguised as alpha behavior. At first, the biker didn't say anything. He simply stood there, half laughing, pretending to admire something on the wall while actually keeping his eyes fixed on her. His friends whispered behind him, "Go on, man. Say something." They were the type who built their courage off someone else's stupidity. And the biker, caught between pride and attention, couldn't resist. He finally took a few steps toward the booth where Seagal and his wife sat. Each step landed with a heavy, arrogant thud. People seated nearby turned their heads, sensing trouble before it even started. Even the bartender paused mid-pour, watching closely. Seagal noticed him approach, but he didn't move. He didn't shift position. He didn't even tense up. He simply sat there, one hand resting on the table, the other around his glass, completely calm. His wife looked ahead, ignoring the biker's presence, trusting her husband's judgment. The patience in her eyes was stronger than any fear. The biker leaned one elbow against a nearby table, still a few feet away, as if pretending he wasn't doing anything. Then, with a wide, mocking grin, he spoke loudly enough for the entire bar to hear. Well, didn't expect to see a princess walking into a place like this." His friends erupted in laughter. A few strangers shook their heads. One woman near the bar whispered, "Oh God, not again." He always does this. Seagal's wife didn't respond. She didn't even turn. Her silence irritated the biker more than any insult could have. "What's wrong?" he continued, stepping a little closer. "Too good to talk to us? Or did your boyfriend here whisper something in your ear?" He jerked his chin toward Seagal, who still hadn't reacted. The biker expected anger. He expected defensiveness. He expected fear. He got none of that. Instead, Seagal slowly lifted his eyes and looked straight at the biker. Not with aggression. Not with intimidation. But with a calmness so steady that it made the biker falter mid-smirk. There was a depth in Seagal's gaze, like he wasn't seeing a threat, but a foolish child dangerously close to burning himself. The biker quickly looked away, pretending he wasn't bothered. But everyone saw it. Everyone felt the shift. He tried to cover it with a louder voice. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, this time addressing Seagal's wife directly, "you sure you're in the right place? Women like you don't usually show up here unless they're looking for some fun." The entire bar went silent. Even the jukebox in the corner seemed to fade. Someone cursed under their breath. A man sitting near the pool table muttered, "He's dead." Seagal's wife finally glanced at the biker, not with fear, but with disappointment. And that, somehow, stung him even more. Before anything escalated, before the biker could take another disrespectful step, the bartender shouted politely yet firmly from behind the counter, "Hey, leave the lady alone." But the biker wasn't the type to step down when challenged. His pride doubled, his stupidity sharpened. He raised both hands in fake innocence. "What? I'm just being friendly. Can't a guy give a compliment?" "That wasn't a compliment," someone muttered. "Mind your business," the biker snapped back. But the tension in the room wasn't in his favor anymore. Eyes were narrowing. People were shifting uncomfortably. They knew Seagal wasn't reacting not because he was weak, but because he didn't need to. And that truth threatened the biker's ego. He forced another laugh, trying to look braver than he felt. "You know, sweetheart," he said again, "if you want better company, you can always join us. We don't bite, unless you ask." A glass clinked sharply. It was Seagal, placing his drink down. The tiny sound echoed louder than any punch could. The biker froze for a second, suddenly aware of how close he was standing to a storm he didn't understand. Seagal's wife gently placed her hand on her husband's arm, silently reassuring him. But Seagal didn't need reassurance. He needed only one moment, one decision. And the biker, drunk on arrogance, kept pushing. He stepped even closer, now standing just inches away from their table. "So what's it gonna be, princess? You staying with Captain Zen here, or?" Seagal turned his head slowly, his gaze landing on the biker with the precision of a blade. His voice, when it came, was calm, too calm. "That's enough." Just 2 words, but spoken with such quiet authority that the biker's laughter instantly died in his throat. The crowd murmured in shock. A quiet voice from the back of the room whispered, "Oh boy, he doesn't even know who he's talking to." And right here, the biker's fate shifted. Where are you watching from? Comment your city and country below. The biker wasn't done. But he should have been. Because the next steps he took would lead him straight into the biggest regret of his night. The biker, still reeling from Seagal's quiet authority, forced a laugh that sounded hollow even to his own ears. He tried to push off the unsettling feeling with arrogance, but it was slipping. The more he stared at Seagal's calm expression, the more he realized something was wrong, something dangerous. And yet, his pride refused to let him retreat. "Ah, come on," he said loudly, slamming his hand on the table beside him. "Can't take a joke? Or are you just scared?" His friends snickered nervously behind him, sensing the tension, but none dared move forward to back him up. Seagal's wife remained seated, serene, observing the biker with a subtle, piercing glance. She didn't say a word, but that glance, sharp, quiet, confident, felt heavier than any punch. The biker's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second. He tried to laugh it off, waving his hands in a show of false bravado. "Relax, lady," he said, leaning closer. "I'm just having fun. Don't tell me you're one of those prissy types who can't handle a little attention." The bar grew uncomfortably quiet. The jukebox hummed in the background, but the biker's voice seemed to dominate every corner. People instinctively shifted their gaze, drawn by the brewing storm. Seagal finally leaned forward, not aggressively, but with a measured, steady calm. He rested a single hand on the table, and with a voice low and controlled, said, "That's enough." The biker froze, momentarily stunned. He hadn't expected words like that, words that were soft, almost polite, yet carried a weight that made the room hold its collective breath. It was the kind of calm that only someone with complete control over themselves could have. Instead of being intimidated, the biker tried to escalate. "Oh, come on. Don't act all tough on me. What are you gonna do, huh?" He pointed a finger, wiggling it near Seagal's chest, as if mocking him. Seagal didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stared, every muscle composed, eyes locked. His presence alone began to shift the energy of the room. The biker started to feel the eyes of every patron drilling into him, some disapproving, others subtly amused, and a few whispering under their breath. "Seriously," the biker continued, getting louder to cover his nerves, "what's the big deal? You think you're some kind of hero." A faint ripple of murmurs passed through the bar. A man at the corner muttered, "He's in trouble if he doesn't back off." Another woman whispered, "He shouldn't have come here like that." Seagal's wife finally placed a gentle hand on his arm, not to warn, not to plead, but to quietly anchor him. The biker mistook the gesture for weakness, misreading the calm confidence as submission. That was his first mistake. Emboldened, he leaned even closer. "Tell me, lady," he said, voice dripping with false charm, "how does it feel walking in here with a guy like this, thinking he's got your back?" The crowd shifted uneasily. Patrons' eyes darted between Seagal, his wife, and the biker. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Some had phones out, recording the moment, sensing this was about to escalate into something unforgettable. Seagal finally spoke again, his voice still soft but carrying absolute authority. "Walk away." The biker laughed nervously, trying to mask his unease. "And miss the chance to have some fun? No way. You've got to loosen up." But for the first time, the biker felt a twinge of doubt. Something about Seagal's calm, unshakable demeanor made him instinctively step back slightly, even as he tried to maintain his posturing. He raised his hand, preparing for another cocky gesture, but before he could act, a voice from the other side of the bar cut through the room. "Hey, leave the lady alone." It wasn't loud, but it was firm enough to carry authority. The biker glared, muttered something under his breath, and turned back. But by now, the tension was undeniable. Everyone knew the biker had gone too far. Seagal's calm eyes never left him. His wife's poised, silent composure added weight to the moment. The biker's friends exchanged nervous glances. The entire bar seemed to lean in, anticipating what would happen next. The biker, drunk on arrogance and false confidence, forced another laugh. "Relax. It's all in good fun." But his laughter lacked conviction. His movements became jittery, and for the first time, he realized he was standing on the edge of a storm he couldn't control. He had no idea that the next few seconds would define his night, and possibly teach him the hardest lesson he'd ever face. If you were in this situation, would you stay calm like Seagal or confront the biker? Comment below with your choice. The biker's next step forward wasn't just a step, it was a decision. A decision that would lead him straight into regret, humiliation, and a lesson he wouldn't forget anytime soon. The biker's arrogance had carried him this far, but the air in the bar had shifted. Every patron had stopped mid-conversation, every movement slowing as though time itself had taken notice. Even the jukebox seemed to fade behind the hum of anticipation. The biker, standing just a few feet from Seagal's booth, noticed the sudden hush. His grin wavered, replaced by an almost imperceptible doubt. Seagal, as always, remained perfectly composed. He didn't rise, didn't tense, didn't make a single move toward aggression. He simply sat, eyes locked on the biker, unblinking, unmoved, and terrifyingly calm. There was a weight in that silence, a quiet authority that suggested one wrong step from the biker could have consequences far beyond what he could imagine. The biker laughed nervously, shifting his weight from one boot to the other. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Or are you too scared to speak?" He tried to keep his voice confident, projecting bravado, but it cracked slightly. A small bead of sweat appeared on his temple despite the chill in the bar. Seagal's wife finally raised an eyebrow, her gaze steady and cold. That silent look carried more power than any shouting or hand gesture could. The biker, for the first time, realized she wasn't afraid. She didn't need protection because her husband's presence alone was a shield, and more importantly, she carried herself with a confidence that made disrespect impossible. Still, the biker's ego refused to submit. "Hey, I was just joking," he said louder, forcing laughter. His friends behind him murmured, uneasy now, realizing that maybe this time he had gone too far. Seagal's voice finally cut through the tension, soft but deadly in its precision. "Step back." 2 words. No shouting. No threats. No dramatics. But the weight behind them made the biker stop mid-step. It was not anger that spoke. It was controlled, deliberate authority. It was the kind of calm that suggested a storm could strike instantly, yet had not. Yet. He swallowed hard. The laughter of his friends died out. Other patrons leaned in slightly, sensing that this moment could explode. A woman at the bar whispered, "He's going to regret this." The biker, trying to cover his doubt with humor, waved his hands as though to dismiss the tension. "Relax. I'm just having fun. No need to get all serious." Seagal tilted his head slightly, eyes never leaving the biker. His expression was almost conversational, but the biker felt every ounce of power in it. It was like standing in front of a predator that didn't need to roar to be terrifying. The biker attempted one final insult, stepping closer again. "You think you're tough. What are you going to do about it?" Seagal's hand moved, slowly, almost lazily, toward the table, resting lightly on the polished wood. Nothing aggressive, but deliberate. The biker's pulse quickened. Every fiber in his body screamed to back off, but pride kept him rooted in place. The room seemed to contract around him. Patrons were holding their breath. Friends of the biker exchanged worried glances. Some were silently reaching for their phones, sensing they were about to witness something unforgettable. Seagal's wife placed a gentle hand on her husband's arm, not as a plea, but as a subtle reinforcement, a quiet assurance that he was ready for whatever came next. The biker misread it as weakness, misjudging calm for submission. But he was wrong. Seagal shifted slightly in his seat, his gaze never leaving the biker. His voice, when it came, was still soft. "Walk away. No." The biker laughed nervously again, but it didn't reach his eyes. He wanted to appear unshaken, but inside, doubt gnawed at him. He could feel it, the quiet, deadly authority radiating from the man in front of him. The confidence that came from years of experience, skill, and control was overwhelming, and it was suffocating. For the first time, the biker's arrogance faltered. His swagger slipped, his bravado cracking under the weight of the tension. He could feel the entire bar's gaze pinning him down. People were recording, whispering, watching. He wasn't the center of attention anymore. He was the potential disaster waiting to unfold. Seagal didn't rise. He didn't shout. He didn't even make a threatening gesture. He simply sat, silent, deadly, in control. And that was enough. The biker took a step back, unconsciously this time, as the room's energy pressed down on him. His friends glanced at each other nervously. The biker opened his mouth, trying to force another joke, another insult, but the words stuck in his throat. The bartender wiped his hands on a towel, not daring to intervene further. Patrons shifted in their seats, leaning forward, sensing the climax approaching. And then, almost imperceptibly, the biker realized he had made a mistake. A very serious one. The air between Seagal and the biker had transformed. No longer was this a simple confrontation. It was a challenge, a warning, a moment that would determine who walked away with dignity, and who walked away humiliated. If you were in this bar, would you back down like the biker or stay calm like Seagal? Comment your choice below. The biker, drunk on arrogance and pride, took another step forward, thinking he could push past the tension. But the moment he did, he crossed a line he didn't even see, one that would soon lead to instant regret. And the quiet storm that was Seagal had just begun. The biker, still clinging to his arrogance, took another step forward. His friends whispered nervously behind him, sensing the danger he had invited. The air in the bar was thick now, every patron leaning in, eyes wide, phones out, recording what was about to happen. Even the jukebox's music seemed to fade beneath the tension, as though the room itself was holding its breath. Seagal's gaze didn't waver. Every muscle relaxed, every movement measured. There was no rush, no aggression, no flourish, just calm authority. The kind of calm that warns you something irreversible is about to occur. The biker didn't understand it yet. He thought he could push further. "Come on," the biker sneered, pointing a finger toward Seagal. "What are you gonna do? Nothing, right? Huh." That laughter was short-lived. Seagal's hand moved, but so subtly, so effortlessly, that most of the bar barely noticed. His arm extended like a shadow across the table, not to strike, but to position. The biker, drunk on arrogance, leaned forward, ready to act, ready to dominate a scene he didn't understand. The moment he tried to shove Seagal, it happened. A motion so quick, so precise, it looked almost unreal. Seagal's hand intercepted the biker's arm, redirecting his forward momentum. The biker stumbled, his footing gone in an instant. He toppled to the floor with a heavy thud that echoed through the stunned bar. The clink of his helmet hitting the wood was punctuated by gasps from the patrons. Silence reigned for a heartbeat. Then murmurs spread like wildfire. "Did you see that? Unbelievable! He didn't even touch him hard, and he's down." The biker scrambled, arms flailing, but Seagal was already moving. Calm, controlled, and utterly efficient. With one swift motion, he neutralized the biker's balance, holding him pinned for a moment just enough to let the message sink in. Disrespect comes with consequences. The biker's friends rushed forward, shouting protests, but Seagal didn't flinch. He wasn't angry, he was deliberate. Every move he made was precise, not cruel, just corrective. The biker's arrogance evaporated in an instant, replaced by raw fear and humiliation. Seagal leaned in slightly, close enough for the biker to hear, and in a quiet, almost conversational tone said, "Respect is earned, not demanded." The words were simple, but delivered with such cold authority that they struck the biker deeper than any punch could have. The man's pride shattered completely, leaving him a trembling, embarrassed figure on the floor. Around the bar, people whispered and gasped. Phones recorded every angle. Patrons couldn't stop staring at the man who had dared to challenge Seagal, and now faced immediate regret. Some tried to hold back laughter, others shook their heads in disbelief. No one moved to intervene. Everyone understood this was deserved. Seagal straightened, his wife beside him untouched, serene, unaffected by the chaos around them. She gave a subtle nod, almost imperceptible, acknowledging the control and composure her husband had maintained throughout the confrontation. The biker's friends helped him to his feet, his face red with embarrassment, eyes wide with disbelief. The biker tried to speak, to make a joke, to save face, but no words came. Every attempted excuse sounded hollow, absurd, and meaningless. The audience of patrons, once casual observers, now watched the scene unfold like a lesson in humility played out live. Seagal returned to his seat, calm and composed, picking up his drink as if nothing had happened. The biker staggered to the bar, trying to recover his dignity, but the damage was done. He had learned, in front of everyone, that arrogance without respect and action without wisdom leads to instant regret. The murmurs of the crowd grew into whispers of admiration, though not for Seagal's wife. She had remained calm, but for Seagal himself. Not because he had humiliated someone, but because he had handled the situation with unmatched skill and precision. Every move deliberate. Every moment controlled. Every lesson unforgettable. Some patrons raised their glasses quietly, almost in salute, acknowledging the display of mastery. Others kept their phones out, already imagining how viral this would go online. The bar had transformed from a noisy, rowdy place into a stage where humility, skill, and authority had been demonstrated perfectly. The biker slumped back into a chair, defeated, while Seagal's calm presence dominated the room. The lesson was clear. Disrespect comes with consequences. Arrogance meets reality. Pride meets control. Have you ever seen someone humiliated instantly for disrespect? Share your story in the comments. The biker's grin, once cocky and full of misplaced confidence, was gone. All that remained was shame, the kind that burns and lingers. And for the first time that night, everyone in the bar understood the truth. Messing with the wrong person can result in instant, brutal regret. And in the quiet aftermath, Seagal simply sat, calm, a quiet storm in human form, proving that sometimes the softest actions carry the heaviest weight. The bar was quiet now, but the tension hadn't fully dissipated. Patrons whispered to each other in low tones, replaying the incident in their minds. Some shook their heads, others laughed softly, still in disbelief. Phones were out everywhere, capturing clips from every angle. Social media notifications would soon explode, but in the moment, the bar itself was frozen in awe. The biker, once the center of attention, was now a humiliated figure. He sat slouched in a chair, his friends helping him adjust, murmuring reassurances that felt hollow. His face burned with shame. The adrenaline from his bravado had drained, leaving only the sting of instant regret. Seagal, by contrast, was calm as ever. He returned to his seat with his wife, hands resting casually on the table, his composure unshaken. There was no gloating, no bragging, just quiet mastery. The way he handled the biker had made a statement far more powerful than any loud confrontation could have. Respect, skill, and calm authority had spoken louder than fists or threats ever could. The patrons who had witnessed the scene were buzzing. A man by the pool table whispered, "That was incredible. He didn't even need to hit him hard. Just, wow." Another patron quietly muttered, "You don't mess with that guy." A few women at the bar exchanged glances, nodding in admiration at Seagal's composure. Even some bikers who weren't involved looked uneasy, as if they had learned a lesson without being physically involved. Phones were raised everywhere, recording videos and taking photos. Someone live-streamed the final moments, and within minutes, notifications began blowing up with likes, shares, and comments. Clips of the bikers' failed arrogance and Seagal's calm, precise handling of the situation would go viral. People online would marvel, debate, and replay the incident for days. Seagal's wife remained composed throughout, an anchor of calm in the storm. Her subtle gestures, placing her hand gently on Seagal's arm, offering a quiet nod, were enough to signal the strength and unity of the couple. It was clear that the biker had misjudged the situation entirely. The biker tried to regain his dignity, standing up shakily, muttering excuses to himself and his friends. But every eye in the bar was on him. Every whispered conversation carried judgment. People exchanged looks of disbelief and quiet amusement. He had learned, in the harshest possible way, that arrogance and disrespect carry immediate consequences. Someone in the back of the bar muttered, "This is going straight to social media. Everyone's going to see this." And indeed, within minutes, videos were being uploaded, shared, and reposted across platforms. Comments ranged from shocked admiration to laughter, all emphasizing the same truth: respect is earned, and mistakes in judgment are remembered instantly. The biker's friends helped him to leave quietly, avoiding eye contact with anyone. He knew, deep down, that the humiliation would follow him. It wasn't just the physical stumble or the quick intervention by Seagal, it was the complete dismantling of his confidence in front of a crowd that had witnessed his failure. Seagal returned to his calm demeanor, sipping his drink, watching the bar slowly return to normal. Conversations started again, but now with a different energy. Patrons whispered about what they had witnessed, some imitating the biker's faltering arrogance, others commenting on Seagal's unmatched calm and precision. Have you ever seen someone get instant regret for disrespect? Share your story in the comments and let us know your thoughts. Outside, the bar's CCTV cameras had captured everything. Within hours, clips were posted online with titles like "Biker Mocks Wrong Woman, Instant Regret," and "Seagal Shows How It's Done." The footage spread like wildfire. Viewers from every corner of the world commented, shared, and discussed the lesson in respect and control. The biker, who had entered the bar full of swagger, arrogance, and bravado, had left with nothing but embarrassment and a lesson learned the hard way. The patrons, however, carried a story to remember, a real-life demonstration that calm authority and skill can outweigh reckless confidence. And through it all, Seagal and his wife exited the bar quietly, their composure intact, leaving behind a bar full of astonished witnesses and viral footage that would teach a lesson for years to come. The moral was clear: disrespect leads to consequences, arrogance meets reality, and skillful composure always commands respect, online, offline, and in every scenario. By the time Seagal and his wife left the bar, the story of the night had already begun to spread like wildfire. Phones recorded every angle, patrons posted live clips on social media, and hashtags started trending within minutes. Hashtag biker regret, hashtag Seagalcom, hashtag respect earned. Titles and tags spread across platforms as the video began to rack up thousands of views before the couple even reached their car. Online, viewers couldn't get enough. Short clips of the biker approaching, mocking, and then stumbling under Seagal's precise, calm intervention went viral almost instantly. Social media feeds were flooded with shocked reactions, animated GIFs, and memes capturing the biker's regretful expression. People shared it with captions like, "Don't mess with someone you underestimate," and "When arrogance meets skill, humility wins." Across continents, viewers debated what happened in the bar. Some praised Seagal's calm precision. Others marveled at the biker's instant fall from confidence to regret. Every comment highlighted the lesson: respect is earned, not demanded. Within hours, the video had millions of views and tens of thousands of shares. News sites picked it up, reporting the incident with dramatic flair, and even lifestyle and martial arts blogs analyzed Seagal's technique and composure. Back in the bar, the patrons were still buzzing. Every group discussed the incident, replayed the moments in their heads, and laughed softly at the biker's expense. Phones were everywhere, not just capturing video but also ensuring that this lesson would not be forgotten. The patrons knew that what they had witnessed was more than just a confrontation. It was a real-life demonstration of calm authority, skill, and dignity. Seagal's wife, always composed, smiled faintly as they walked out. She hadn't needed to intervene. The lesson had been taught perfectly. Her calm presence, coupled with Seagal's precise handling of the situation, had turned a moment of potential danger into a powerful display of humility, composure, and respect. The biker, however, would not soon forget the night. His arrogance had been dismantled in seconds, and the humiliation would follow him not just in his memory, but online, across social media, and in conversations for months to come. He had learned, in the hardest possible way, that disrespect carries immediate consequences, and that not all victims are powerless. By the next morning, the bar's video had spread internationally. Martial arts fans analyzed Seagal's movements, bar patrons shared their perspectives, and countless online commentators praised the calm precision of his actions. The viral clip became a teaching tool, a cautionary tale, and a source of entertainment all at once. Schools of martial arts even used it to demonstrate the effectiveness of control over aggression, and forums debated the psychology of pride and humility. This wasn't just a bar fight, it was a lesson in human behavior. Quick wit, calm composure, and precise action had overturned arrogance and entitlement in seconds. Millions of viewers understood the core message: disrespect leads to regret, and confidence coupled with skill trumps arrogance every time. If you learned anything from this story, here's what to do next. Like this video if you believe respect is earned, not demanded. Comment below. Have you ever witnessed someone get instant regret for disrespect? Share your story with us. Subscribe to the channel for more real-life confrontations, epic lessons, and incredible stories of skill, humility, and bravery. Remember, every moment of arrogance carries consequences. Every action has a reaction. And sometimes, the calmest, most precise response speaks louder than anything else in the world. Seagal's demonstration that night was more than just self-defense. It was a universal lesson, captured for millions to witness, learn from, and share. And now, that lesson lives on, spreading across screens, feeds, and conversations worldwide. The biker learned regret the hard way, the patrons learned awe and respect, and millions online learned a lesson they would not soon forget.